Morning. So in the previous lecture, we have seen, say for example, we have seen AR, MA, and ARMA models. Now and then at the end, we have actually defined what is called an ARIMA process. Now all these things can be brought under a general category of process, which we discuss as a general linear process. So today we are going to introduce a general linear process, and we can see that whatever that we have learned so far under certain conditions can be considered as a general linear process. Now, why a general linear process? Well, general linear process has certain properties under certain conditions. Of course, when I say properties satisfy means it is not universally satisfy under certain conditions. So let's look at them in more detail. So what is the general linear process? So xt, if I can write j from minus infinity to plus infinity, psi j is t minus j, and such that these sequence psi j coefficients satisfy this absolute summability. Remember that I have taken from minus infinity to plus infinity, and this can be 0 to infinity, but then I assume psi j equal to 0 for j less than 0. So that's something that we can assume, because if you assume that what process that you are going to get, you're going to get a ma infinity in such a case, because ma infinity we have seen that it is 0 to infinity, psi j is at t minus j. So whenever, so in general, if this absolute summability means summation j equal to minus infinity to plus infinity, absolute of psi j is finite, we can call this xt process as a general linear process. Okay. Now, using the backshift operator polynomial, you will be able to write xt as psi b z t, where psi b is nothing but psi j b to the power of j. So you can see that this is j equal to 0. This is simply psi 0, and that is what zt, j equal to 0, psi 0 zt. So that's what you get. I mean, like 1, you get psi 1 zt minus 1. So because you have b to the power of 1, and b to the power of 1 zt is zt minus 1. So etc. So you are going to have, we will be able to represent xt in this manner. And you can see that a MA infinity process is basically can be represented like this, with psi j equal to 0 for all j less than 0. So this is the condition is very important, because now when I say, I think I have been repeating this point, when we say that this is equal to this, you have to be very careful. What do you mean by this is equal to this? Because this is actually an infinite series, and infinite series equal to this. So we have to talk in terms of the probability of, or in terms of almost sure, or in terms of mean square convergence. I mean, like rth moment convergence. Xn converges to x in r if expected value of xn minus x to the power of r tends to 0. That's what the r square convergence. I mean, like the converges in rth mean. And if r equal to 2, we call it as mean square convergence. So what you can do in this case, when I say that this is equal, I mean such a thing happens in this case also, because see, when you say to x equal to y, it's not like, I think you should know that, for example, in the case of a real sequence, I can write xn equal to yn without any problem. But when it is a random variable, there is no meaning for this if you simply write that, because you have to say for what omega this is equal to true. So if it is for all omega, or for all omega such belongs to n, such that there is a measure for n complement that is 0. So this is called almost surely. Or you can say that probability of xn omega minus yn omega greater than epsilon tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. So this is we call it as xn minus yn converges in probability to 0. This probability, oh sorry, I got it mixed with this. You can actually write, if you don't want to write. Now in our case, we consider this not a general measure. Mathematics people may be considering this as a general measure. We are considering probability measure. So this is exactly same as probability measure is one type of measure which actually normed between 0 and 1. all other conditions are same. Sigma additivity, non-negativity, countable additivity, etc. All these are same. So we can say that when we say you have to be careful. So that's what when I say xt equal to this, you have to mean one of these. So what we are saying is that you can actually, or you can actually go for this. That's what I said. Expectation of x in omega minus y in omega square tends to 0. This is what convergence, mean square convergence. Or mathematics people will say convergence in uh, what I don't know the terminology, convergence in arc mean or integral convergence basically. So that's what so arc mean. So we write like this: xn minus yn. This. So we have this idea. So basically, why you have to resort to one of them. I mean, like when you talk about random sequences. So that's where. So for that, actually, what happens that one condition that we have assumed this condition for the general linear process. So you can see that the expected value of xt with that condition, I can take the expectation inside. I mean, like there's so many mathematics theorems like Fibonacci, dominated convergence theorem, etc. So many theorems. Not getting into the technicalities of them. So if you take this inside with that condition, now this for zt is a white noise. Therefore, this expectation is absolute of that is finite. So you can see that this is, I'm just denoting it by sigma. So you can see that this quantity is basically converging. So it is essentially same as this is a constant because expectation of this is a constant. So essentially it's same as this condition. So if you have that condition, you will be in a position to actually claim that it is convergence with probability 1. I think with probability 1 is same as almost sure. That's what, because the set in which the convergence doesn't have happens will have the probability 0. That's what the almost sure. You can also talk in terms of in mean and mean square convergence. So we will not ask you to the details of this. So how will you do all these things? You may have to do this with, for example, if you are doing this with, say, I think I have mentioned this earlier in one of my lectures. So if you are saying that xt is equal to this, some j equal to 0 to infinity psi j zt minus j. So I have to talk about this quantity xt minus summation j equal to 0 to k psi j zt minus j. So this is actually this convergence, like this converges to 0 as k tends to infinity. So I have to talk something like this. So this whole thing, this is what is happening. Now, what way? So you can say almost surely, improbability, arth mean, etc. So we are basically interested in this almost surely. This is a bit weak because almost sure implies this. Arth mean implies this. So we actually, but this of course there is no connection. I mean, like this can need not imply this, that you have learned in your probability theory class. So what you have is you basically have, so we are saying that we basically assume this, and that can guarantee with the absolute summability of this condition. And you can also see that we can prove that because expectation of z is actually zt square is finite, you can also talk in terms of the arth mean. This means expected value of this square goes to 0. So this is what we mean by this. I'm not getting into the proof or any details of this. So when we say that there is an infinite sequence, we mean by that. So this operator basically, now if you look at this little carefully, what is this xt process made of? So this xt process is basically doing a filtering operation of the white noise. So which means that white noise is a stationary process, and then you are doing a filtering operation. Filtering operation means a linear combination of white noise to result to get an xt process. So you see here, so the operator psi b is a linear filter which produces the process xt from the white noise. So you can see that the MA process is always a linear process. Why it is a linear process? Because you see here, MA process means it is something like this. So an MAQ is xt equal to zt plus theta zt minus 1 plus etc. So theta 1 plus theta q zt minus q. So this is actually can be written as summation j equal to minus infinity to plus infinity psi j zt minus j. What is this psi j? This psi j, actually this psi j equal to 0 for j less than 0, also equal to 0 for j greater than q. So this is 0 for j less than 0 as well as j greater than q. So what happened? You have only finite number of terms in this, and then theta 1, theta 2, theta q are finite reals. Therefore, this is finite, right? So this is what. So therefore, an xt process which is MA is always a linear process. Now, if you look at AR, so ARP process, the question is, can we say that ARP process is also linear? Uh, Not always, because the reason is, if you come to ARP process, you will be able to do something. Like for example, you take AR1. For example, you take AR1. So what happens to AR1? Phi xt minus 1 plus zt. You continuously substitute phi xt minus 2 plus zt minus 1 plus zt. So this gives me zt plus phi square, sorry, phi zt minus 1 plus phi square xt minus 2. Continue this. So if you continue this, you can see that summation j equal to 0 to infinity phi to the power of j zt minus j. I'll be able to do this. But then you see this is just a notation. If you want to do that, this has to converge. So naturally I put a condition. This is when this happens. So if it doesn't happen, I will not be in a position to write like this. So what is the moral of the story? That means xt is going to be a linear process only with this condition, right? Otherwise we will not able to do that. So that's what AR process is, linear, provided this condition is satisfied. So now there is a claim. I mean, for a general process, we have defined or we have derived the ACF, PACF of AR as well as MA, and in fact, including ARMA. Oh, by the way, ARMA also can be represented as a general linear process. I'll come to that in a minute. So you can see that you can have a general formula for the ACF or autocovariance function of a uh, general linear process. So I'll consider a general linear process, and you can see that the autocovariance function can be written like this. This is not very difficult to claim, because what happened that xt and xt minus k, if you consider, you can see that you multiply by you write xt here and then xt minus k here. So and then take expectations. So you'll be able to show that this simplifies to this, something like this. uh, I think I'm leaving that to for you to prove. It's not very difficult. You write xt here. If xt is this, what is xt minus k? You will have t minus k minus j with another summation. So and multiply them and then take the expectation. So that will give you gamma xh. Well, sorry, not k. Actually, I wanted, sorry, k I have written it as a running variable. I want xt minus h. So it is something like this. You compute this quantity, write xt and write xt minus h and take expectation. So this is gamma xh. So you can see that this is expectation of this j is so minus infinity to plus infinity. Psi j zt minus j and then j equal to this j, I'm writing it as k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity psi k, and this is now z t plus k, sorry, psi k z t plus t minus h. So this is t minus, if t, then I will be writing like this. So t minus h, I'll be writing like this, I k is t minus k. Now you simplify this. So you have a double summation. You have some advantage, like, you have only considered the similar terms here when they were equal. So because when they are not equal, this expectation is going to be 0, because zt's are uncorrelated. So you will have only sigma square when they are equal. Now, what happens in this case, if I'm going to write in terms of, we did not, I mean, like, if it is a y, see, there are two things here. This ZT need not be my theorem, or the result actually states for, we did not claim that this is a, or we did not put the condition that this is a white noise. We simply say that this is a stationary. And then, so what we are doing is, you're taking an infinite linear combinations of a stationary process and then considering another process xt. And so from this, we basically get this and then claim that this is also a stationary process. So the theorem, or what we are saying, is that if you take such linear combinations, you get another stationary process, provided this is, of course, we are putting this condition. So that can be proved very easily. So what is required, you can see that the expectation of xt is actually going to be 0, and you can also find the variance of this, because the variance of this will be summation ij square and the variance of this. Now, plus, since it's stationary, I'm not claiming the covariance is 0, I mean, like 0. That is only for the white noise. So you'll have a covariance term. And then, you need to actually, because this absolute summability is actually implies the square summability. So here you will be able to say that the variance is also finite. So essentially what happens in this case is, when yt minus j is a white noise, this reduces to this. So this statement is not for white noise. You have to prove it in general. How do you prove that? You start computing, show that, so your gamma h should be, show that, this is not z now. Okay, that's what I should write. This is y. Because for the general theorem, I am not assuming that it's a white noise. Okay, so gamma x is, show that xt is stationary whenever yt is stationary. So what is that you need to show in this case? If I ask you to do this exercise, you need to show that you need to show this expectation of xt constant free, or show that constant free from t, variance of xt is constant free from t, finite also, and covariance between xt and xt plus xt minus h is a function of h. So if you show these three things, 1, 2 and 3, then you are in. So how will you show that? Because already these properties are there for y. So if you can actually, so that's what, so you have these properties for gamma y h. So use that and then simplify this. What is that you have to simplify? Write this, simplify this. Already use those properties for y, okay, and write in terms of gamma y. So whenever this gamma y is a stationary or y is a stationary process, we can show that this is a stationary process, provided we assume that absolute summability for psi j, so a linear process. So what, this is a big thing. I mean, like, it appears to be very simple, but what it shows that you can construct different stationary processes from a given stationary process by way of doing this filtering. That's what it essentially says. So the filtering can be a finite averages, infinite weighted averages, but you may have to put some condition on the weights, and then this is what it says. So you can see that now, as a special case, when you have this to be a white noise. So special case when you have ZT. So when you have ZT, they will be uncorrelated and a constant variance. In such a case, this covariance function of this reduces to, so you have this psi j plus h sigma square, because this sigma square, because this, what happens that this will be only when this is equal, h plus k equal to j, that is the place where you have some contribution. All other cases you have zero. So you can substitute that over here, and then you get this particular equation in terms of just single sum. So this is what the stationary process generated from stationary process using filter or infinite linear combinations. Okay. Now, what are the examples that we have? Now, all the process that we have learned so far can be put under this broad umbrella. So what is that? For example, if I consider an MA1, we can see that MA1 can be written like this. So this is like MA1 is a linear process. AR1 can be written like this, but then the moment I write like this, I need to have a condition, the summability of this phi j. So absolute of phi less than 1 is required, because that's what this condition is. So essentially we are showing something like this as k tends to infinity. Now you may ask the question, what happens in the case of absolute of phi greater than 1? Can we say something like this? Yes, we can say that, because we have seen in the earlier case that when absolute of phi greater than 1, you will be in a position to write xt in this fashion, so that you can say as k tends, you put a k here, and then similar kind of a claim can be made. But then the problem is that in such a case, xt, when you write, it depends on the future errors. So that is something which is unnatural, or what we call it as non-causal. So we are not interested in those cases. Okay. You can also write ARMA in the similar fashion as a linear process. How will you write ARMA as a linear process? Because ARMA is this, and we have seen this in the when we discussed ARMA. ARMA can be written like this. In fact, this you can further simplify and then write this as summation j equal to 0 to infinity, some psi j zt minus j, and psi naught can be taken appropriately, defined appropriately, and all other psi j's are nothing but phi plus theta into phi to the power of j minus 1 can be called as psi j. So which means that you will be in a position to write this as a linear process. So to convert the convergence condition in that case, absolute of psi j finite requires a condition that absolute of phi less than 1. So that's where, so this is actually a solution of this difference equation, because we have got a solution of this difference equation, and then you can see that it basically converges. The same logic apply here, because you put this up to k and then say that as k tends to infinity, this whole thing goes to xt. So that's what the unique stationary solution. So what is the condition required for this to be a general linear process? Absolute of phi less than 1. Now similarly, as I claimed in the case of AR, here also I can claim that when phi greater than 1, there is a unique solution, but again the unique solution is going to depend on the future values. So they are not causal. Okay. Now just I want to introduce this causality and invertibility. So like in the general case, you can define the causality is something like this and the invertibility is something like this. So causality means the past errors actually causes the current value. That's what the causality is, because you will be writing the past in terms of the past and the current errors, the xt, as a linear combination of all these things. So then we say xt is a causal process. And if you can write zt in terms of the past actual values, we call zt, I mean xt as a, not zt, xt as invertible. Okay, remember that xt is invertible. So essentially speaking, then I think we had a lot of discussion on causality and invertibility. Some people asked when it is used, and it basically, the interest is a mathematical interest rather than for an applied interest. Because for applied interest, we really don't consider, in the case of applied identification, this causality and invertibility. But when we want to prove certain things, like even though I say this, for example, I take a process and then I identify a particular process, and if that process turned out to be non-causal, then that process in a practical sense doesn't have any meaning. So even though we say it is a mathematical concept, practically also it is important to talk about the causality and invertibility. Well, you can have some examples now. So, for example, AR1 is a causal process provided absolute of phi less than 1. MA1 is always causal because you can write as a linear combination of ZT values. ARMA 1 is causal when absolute of phi less than 1. Now, you can do some exercise. For example, find pi j coefficient and psi j coefficient. Now, what is that pi j and psi j? So, it's like you will be writing the process in terms of this and then compute these psi j values. For the causal case, you will be writing zt in terms of x and then compute the coefficient pi j. That's what from the invertibility. So that is what you do in this case. So how will you do this exercise? I'll do one of them and then show you. It's very simple, because for example, if you take sorry, let's take one of them. I mean, like so here, say for example, if I consider xt is equal to say 0.2 xt minus 1 plus zt. What about the causality? Now this, we have seen that this is causal. We'll be able to write j equal to 0 to infinity 0.2 to the power of j zt minus j, and this converges because 0.2 is always less than 1. So therefore, in fact, I don't have to write this absolute because it's always positive. Sorry. So I'll just remove this. Okay. Since, so this is a finite quantity and this is a general linear process. So this is causal. But if you consider xt as 1.2 xt minus 1 plus zt, then this is not causal because you will not be in a position to write in this manner. Okay, so this is not a causal. Now order 1 is very easy. So what you need to do is for order 2, so order 2 I will be able to, so for example 0.1 xt minus 1 plus say 1.2 xt minus 2 plus zt. Now how will you do this one? So this one, if I want to examine that causality, writing that in that fashion will be possible. Only we have to talk about the roots of the polynomial. So the roots of phi z, which is 1 minus 0.1 z minus 1.2 z. So root means you are equating this to 0 and solve for z. Solve for z. Equate this to 0, solve for z, and then see that whether absolute of z is greater than 1. See whether this absolute is not the usual absolute, it is the absolute of a complex number. because z can be complex. So when I say absolute of a complex number means square root of a square plus b square. Okay, remember, many people get confused here and then they just take absolute of that. Well, if it is a real number, then you are just considering the positive square, I mean like positive part, but in the other case, it's like square root of a square plus b square. So this you have to identify. I mean, this I'm not going to solve because this is like a 6, 7 standard, 8 standard solution. I mean, like you can compute the solution. So what I am trying to say here is that you can do this exercise. Now, if I have a MA2, I don't have to do anything because MA2 is always going to be 0.2 or sorry, I'll write like this, ZT plus say zero point 0.6 ZT minus 1 plus 0.3 ZT minus 2. So I don't, it is already in a causal form. So this is causal always. No need to verify because it is already in that form. What need to be verified, because this is written in this form, summation psi j ZT minus j, and this you have because j, all j's are 0, you have only 0.6 and 0.3 which are 1, and so this is finite. This condition is satisfied. So all MA, finite MA process. Of course, if it is an MA infinity, then you have to be careful because then I don't know whether this converges. So I have to be I'm verifying that. But in the case of finite one, I don't have to actually verify. So all finite MA processes are causal. Now, when it comes to ARMA, what you need to do is that we have to actually verify this condition in the case of the AR part. So you remember that I have this particular condition. What is that condition? See here. So I have to verify this in the case of ARMA. And then you verify this whether this happens. So how will you verify that? We will not verify this directly, but we rather find the roots of the polynomial. So you have to write this. So this is ARMA 11. So this will be called, I mean, you have to, sometimes it is very easy to verify this. So you take the AR polynomial and see that whether there is a convergence, so which means that it is causal, and invertibility is decided by this MA polynomial. Because what is the invertibility? See, it is how this is done is very easy because it's like you are writing this phi b xt is equal to theta b zt. So if you are and then you are writing this xt as phi inverse b multiplied by theta b zt. Now theta b is a finite quantity. So basically what is happening is that this theta b getting multiplied by phi inverse b. So it's like this is what actually creating the problem, the phi inverse b, because that's where the expressions of the phi 1, phi 2, etc. all are going to come. So does this converge? So this is what actually contributing towards the infinite sum. Like for example, if I have a AR1, this will be looking like phi b. If it is an AR2, so you're talking about this. So the convergence of that basically depends on this. If it is AR2, it is like a 1 minus P1B minus P2B square. So it depends on this too. So there what happens that the convergence of this is basically depending on the roots of the polynomial. So we need to consider the roots of the polynomial in higher order case, whether it is a AR or whether it is a MA, where you talk in terms of causality and invertibility. Because yeah, so AR process is always invertible. Why? Because you are writing like this. See, phi1 xt minus 1 plus phi2 xt minus 2 plus zt. So if you take this on this side and write minus and change this to equality, invertibility is already there because you have written zt in terms of the past values of xt. So always an AR process is invertible MA process is causal. What is required to see whether AR process is causal or MA process is invertible? So MA process is always causal but not invertible unless some condition is satisfied. AR process is always invertible but not causal unless some properties are satisfied. So that is what we see in this example. And of course, ARMA behavior is exactly same as depending on the AR coefficient and AR polynomial and MA polynomial. So this is the exercise that you need to verify. So one question that people get confused is the causality same as stationarity. So that's where I wanted to say that no, causality is not actually same as stationarity. For example, in an AR1, if absolute of phi greater than 1, still you get a stationary solution. But what happens that it is not causal? So causal is much beyond that, because causal means it has to have it should be written on the past values, whereas a stationary solution doesn't guarantee that you have to write in terms of past values or anything. It's just a property. So what happens in the case of the causality is not exactly same as stationarity, and this can be extended to MA process as well. Okay, thank you.